This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Another week for the Philadelphia Eagles where major changes need to happen. This game against the New Orleans Saints not only is just to prove to the league, but to prove to the fans that they are competent, that they can actually play some normal 101 football at the end of the day. So we got the press conferences of Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio talking about specific players. The Haason Reddick news is swirling for a trade next week. Is it the Eagles? Is it not? Is it other things? I don't know. But there is so much they need to fix, and there is a lot being said the other day. So let's get into all of it.
A killer buried, but not dead.
Darren, we better turn around. Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a great day. I hope everyone's enjoying their week. Now, this is a short week. The Eagles have to go into New Orleans on Sunday at 1 o'clock. Thank God it's an early game. We get this thing over with, and hopefully they play really well. But a lot of talk within the coordinators and, week by week, you play the same way. You play this under par type offense, defensive play. The excuses are just going to get worse and worse. And this next game is more important than we realize. A lot being said. Before I get into the press conferences, before I get into all of the news, this video is sponsored by BetUS, and this is a word from our sponsors at BetUS. If I'm the betting man, then I am, and you're rooting for the Philadelphia Eagles, this is the redemption year for Jaylen Herz. This is the year we get the bad taste out of our mouths from last season. If I'm going all in, ride or die with a Super Bowl and bringing that Lombardi trophy back to Philadelphia for a second time, you need to go to BetUS, and I'm not wasting any time with it. I'm putting $500 down as the risk and getting $7,000 back at the end of the year because this offense is going to be explosive. This defense by Vic Fangio is going to be dynamic. A 150% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. Click the link in the description below. Start betting and start winning. So to really start everything off, we found out some Haason Reddick news from Dan Graziano of ESPN saying keep an eye out this week and early next week for potential movement on the Haason Reddick front with the Jets. Okay. Now, guys, I know this has been the reversible dream of bringing Haason Reddick back to Philadelphia. I don't know if there's another team out there that is willing to pay Reddick what he's getting paid, and I don't think teams are blaming Reddick, honestly. He was promised a contract when getting traded, and it never happened, so the pen and paper was not ready. We know the whole story about the New York Jets and how they really just fumbled this opportunity on getting an edge rusher that they really need to that defense they have. For the Philadelphia Eagles, it's a coaching thing, okay? Especially on that defensive line. We've talked about it a million times. We talk about Jordan Davis and Jaylen Carter and some of these other guys on this defensive line, and we say to ourselves, how are they not getting pressure? And it's almost impossible to make me think that this defensive line can never get pressure, which we'll get more into this later in this video, okay? Because trading for another player isn't going to make a difference. Okay, signing another player is going to make a difference. Okay, this unit has to work as a unit. Okay, one guy cannot make all the plays, but when you have a guy situational as as Haason Reddick, as Haason Reddick, that is your closer that you could depend on a guy that's when it's fourth down and there's a minute and a half left and you need to make that play. Haason Reddick can do that for you. Okay. He might not be he might be more of a streaky player. Well, he won't give you, he'll give you 6 sacks in 1 month and no sacks the next month. He's just that type of player, but he makes plays when they matter. And we have always said this, and because I was already very uncertain when we traded Haason Reddick, what was really left on this defensive line, really guaranteeing it on a 3rd-round pick in Jaylen Hunt that's not even playing right now. Bryce Huff, we know how, I don't even need to explain much more because I've already talked about him enough this past week, and it's just very lackluster. This is the first year in Philadelphia for a long time where the Eagles' defensive line not only lost 2 vets, but at the same time, is like I said, it's just not playing up to par. And I think it's more of a coaching aspect on why the Eagles are not getting pressure. It's just way too weird. On top of not blitzing in games and making things a lot worse for the pass rush in general. But if your run game is bad, your pass rush is going to be worse, and your secondary is going to pay for it. You can't really blame your linebackers, your corners, your safeties. It is what it is. But Reddick would be great. This would be a crazy move if they were able to revert this thing back. It's almost sounding crazy if they actually did this. I'm not saying it's going to happen or not going to happen, but maybe it's much easier for the Jets to trade him back, and maybe Reddick will say to himself, look, maybe the Eagles will pay Reddick another $3 million. The Eagles have $24.5 million in cap space. They have plenty of cap space. I'm not really worried about it. If they want to say, hey, Reddick, we'll give you a pay raise this year, but, after this year, you might have to find another team. But we never wanted you to leave. We always wanted you back, but this is where we're at right now. So adding Reddick to the front, yeah, it'll work, especially if they can get the coaching aspect to this defensive line a lot better, and we could really start doing some good things this year. We're only going into week 3, so it's still very early in the season. Whether this trade happens or not, I'll be very interested to see if there's a team out there that's willing to give him that big contract that the Jets obviously cannot do at this point, and was promising Reddick that. Or Reddick's going to say, you know what, let me get a pay raise for this year on top of the $14.5 million I'm getting paid, and let me play for the team I know, the coaches, and to go to a whole brand new spot. If someone gives him a $25 million contract, that's a different story. I don't even know what the number is at this point. But Eagle fans have been talking about this nonstop, and I'm not gonna say it's gonna happen. It's to trade a player away and then get him back in the same season. It's never happened. And, we'll see what happens with that. So keep your eyes open. I'll be the eyes and ears and let you guys know what's going on with that. Now, reports coming out. Now, this is from Vic Fangio's press conference, okay? Now, Vic Fangio did talk about Bryce Huff, saying that Bryce Huff will remain the starter. Says he is learning to play an entire position as opposed to just rushing the QB. We're going to stick with him. Okay, we know what's going on with Bryce Huff. $17 million a year, came from a heavy rotation last year. But let me say this, dude. Like, taking him out of position is probably the worst thing you probably could have done with him, because this scheme, I hate it. I can't stand it. We've talked about it. You took Quinyon Mitchell out of position, but seems like he's playing really well. But they haven't put him at nickel for one game, so we don't even know if at this point you're keeping Quinyon Mitchell on the outside. He's already played 2 games on the outside. Looks like Isaiah Rodgers is never going to come back in. It's going to be a depth piece the rest of this year unless they try to cross train him to inside. I don't think Isaiah Rodgers has played on the inside, but with an out-of-position player, not only are you increasing his snaps from 41 to 62 in 2 games from the Jets really to the Philadelphia Eagles, but the pass coverage aspect of it, I don't see him doing anything. It's already enough he's got to worry about doing his one thing and getting paid for it off a 10-sack season. But not only that, but you're putting him in pass coverage. And I know that ends have to drop in coverage, but he is not the right guy. I don't think Josh Sweat could do it. We know Brandon Graham can't do it. Jalen Hunt's not even playing. It's just what end is good right now that could drop? Nolan Smith, maybe? I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody has produced in drop coverage as an edge rusher right now. Okay, so that's really hurting us. And I've already talked about this already, because Fangio did talk about Jaylen Carter that missed, so Jaylen Carter was late to a meeting, I guess, last week. Okay, so they sat him. They actually benched him for like a series, I guess. So he said, quote unquote, he had some hiccups during the week, that caused that. So Nick did talk about that he missed a meeting, and that's why he didn't play in the first series, whatever, okay? I don't think it's anything alarming, not a big deal. I think they need to switch some guys around. I talked about it the other day on my last video. I said that, especially when there was no blitz, you barely blitzed in this game. Barely blitzed in that second game at all. Okay, Zach Bond had 11 solo tackles and 15 tackles, 3 sacks his first game, 2 sacks his first game. Okay, they barely blitzed linebackers. They barely blitzed at all. They barely put Zach Bond on the edge. Remember, they started to put Zach Bond on the edge in that Brazil game because they really couldn't get a pass rush at all. Where was that? Nowhere to be found. So I said this, Devin White should not be on the bench. A healthy scratch. It's ridiculous. Okay? Move Zach Bond to edge rusher. Put Devin White as the middle linebacker. And if not this, and I saw some other things too, put Milton Williams at defensive tackle. Put Jaylen Carter on the edge. Move, guys. Moro Jomo, Milton Williams, and Thomas Booker Thomas Booker especially, were your most productive DTs in the first game. Why is that? Okay? I think you have to switch some guys around, especially linebacker. I feel like Devin White is being wasted. Got to play. Zach Bond used to be a defensive end with the Saints. Transition to outside linebacker. We have got to put somebody on that edge. We need to not cross-train because he's done it before. We need to put Zach Bond at edge rusher. We need to move some guys around. It's too basic for me. Like, if things don't work, especially, this reminds me of last year so much too. It's like I feel like they're lining them up and they're playing. No matter how bad it gets during the game, no changes are made. And I think strategically changes have to be made this week. Move Devin White inside. And honestly, like, we just need more on that edge. Whether it's Carter, whether it's Zach Bond. Zach Bond I actually really like as a pass rusher. Put him in there. Remember, you don't have Patrick Johnson anymore. He went to the Giants. They let him go. So that's a whole different story. But for this week going forward, they have to move some guys around. Like, if things are not working, what is the whole thing with not making adjustments? Like, there's no adjustments when you're. I mean, Fangio even talked about. Fangio said during this presser, you're not going to get a pass rush if you're bad against the run. Well, then you got to switch things around. You got to move your linebackers, play your linebackers downhill, blitz a little more, do something, and it just seems like he's not doing it. Didn't do that in the second game. I liked how he used the linebackers in the first game, and when they weren't generating pressure because of the so-called bad field, that's not really an excuse anymore. He made adjustments last week. Blitz packages. We did it so much in the offseason program. Where was it? It totally disappeared in that second game. Another thing we have to look out for is really just A.J. Brown being out. We got to win a game without A.J. Brown. You couldn't beat the Falcons without A.J. Brown. Now you're versing a better team that's put up 92 points the last 2 weeks. Okay? But what's really good about that Saints offense is that they just have really good coaching behind it. Okay, Derek Carr might not be the flashiest quarterback you've ever seen, but let me tell you, behind a good coach, he can look pretty good. And I think they showed that against the Dallas Cowboys last week. Okay, A.J. Brown being out. Can we please, and Kellen Moore, whether it's Nick calling the play, whatever it is, okay, Jahan Dotson should not even have more. I mean, seriously, Jahan Dotson, we were promised that Jahan Dotson will be heavily involved, in this offense. Was he heavily involved? Is he still learning the offense? Still? I mean, seriously, you can't make some plays for him for the week when you knew A.J. Brown was going to be out of this game. You had nothing lined up for Jahan Dotson. But unfortunately, Jahan Dotson gets one target the entire game. One target. That's it. Britton Covey has more targets than Jahan Dotson. Come on now. The skill levels are night and day between both of these players. And Jahan Dotson plays between 70 to 80% of the snaps and literally gets one target. That's it. One target, one catch. Not even like 5 targets and 1 catch. Not even an opportunity to throw him the ball. Okay, that was inexcusable. That was laughable. That was really embarrassing. Okay, I like Covey being involved, but Jahan Dotson's sitting right there. Okay, like, I'm tired of hearing about they need more time and Jahan Dotson. Like, sorry, this is a whole nother week. You're telling me he can't run a basic route, a slant. Come on now, like, give me a break with him catching up with the playbook. Give me a break with that. It's getting really old as of right now. And on top of everything else, Jaylen Herz needs to have a fantastic game. I mean, I saw a lot of video this week of him missing wide open targets, especially ones where he could have had some completed passes in the pocket, not climbing the pocket, escaping the pocket way too early. There are times where he escapes the pocket and things go smoothly, but most of the time there's nothing there. There's nothing there. And I feel like because there's nobody open, he quick judges himself to escape the pocket to make more to guys, kind of get open, telling, directing receivers where to go to get open because he has a good receiver core in front of him. But without A.J. Brown being there, and obviously it just seems like he just hasn't thrown to anybody else at this point. You're not even throwing to running backs. I mean, he threw to a running back probably once the whole entire game, and that's Kellen Moore's bread and butter. Like I said, I still don't think that Kellen Moore is in full control of this offense. I'm just saying that from how it looked in this game, okay? Between Jaylen Herz getting hit way too much, QB draws, read option keepers, I'm tired of that. Use Saquon Barkley in this game. Saquon Barkley was getting you 9, 10-yard carries. I mean, instantly, even at the pass, too. We really need to utilize Saquon Barkley even more. Stop being all cute with these little stupid keepers with Jaylen Herz and trying to, like once in a while is fine, but you make it the main part of your offense, and defenses are reading this because it's predictable. They've been doing this since last year, okay? You know what I mean? So I don't like the impatience in the pocket. And like I said, I seen a lot of tape on Jaylen Herz missing on a lot of checkdowns, even little checkdowns. Why does everything have to be a big freaking play downfield, 70 yards? Like, why do we have to huck it downfield and play hero ball? You know what I mean? So the play calling has got to look better, but the route combinations, and can you please get more guys involved in this offense receiver-wise with Jahan Dotson and Dallas Goedert, too. Come on now. Ridiculous. This has got to change. I don't want to see Jaylen Herz escape the pocket over 20 times in one game. As soon as he just sits there, it's like I feel like he's coached to literally say, if the first target is not there, if he's not in the spot you want him to be, escape the pocket. I feel like he's being coached to play that way. His decision making has been god awful, and the coaching behind it has been god awful. Kind of, I don't know. I guess telling him to do specific things. I can't tell. I think it's a huge coaching aspect, and it affects the quarterback play. So I'm getting a brain aneurysm because I can't even think about this because I feel like it's so easy, and they make it so hard. Like the short pass game, things like that. Like this offense is based off of obviously the run fits, short pass game. Let these receivers make these plays on their own. Jaylen Herz doesn't have to lob it downfield. Make it easy for Jaylen Herz. Like the end of that game in Brazil, fourth quarter, Devontae Smith has some good short catches. He does a lot of yak yards on his own, breaking tackles. You don't have to make things so complicated for him, but you do, because when Jaylen Herz puts more of this on his shoulders, the mistakes are going to come. They're going to happen. It's bound to happen. I'm not hiding from it. I've been saying that the last couple weeks. Don't play hero ball with him. You put those weapons with him and let him rip it, man, because it's not looking great. But hopefully a better week this week with better coaching this week. That's all I really asked for, going forward. So realistically, when we think about this, not only that, I want to go back to Bryce Huff because one thing was said. Well, he said this, I think, after practice the other day. He says, Bryce Huff said after watching the tape from Monday night, he feels he needs to be more consistent and also switch him in his rushes so he gives the OTs more different looks. I don't think he's doing enough. As a guy that's just getting more snaps on a big contract, he's just not doing enough. I hate that we paid a guy. They literally paid a guy that hasn't done nothing. He's got two assisted tackles in 2 games. Not even a pressure, not even a hurry, nothing. He had a half tackle in this last game with Zach Bond because and Kirk Cousins actually stepped up in the pocket and had to run for a positive 2 yards. So it wasn't even a sack or a tackle for loss. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. I think the usage of players on both sides with coaching is probably the worst I've seen in a while. Okay, call this like I swear to God, I'm continuing the season from last season still. I feel like I'm literally continuing a season from last season with very minor, minimal changes, and it's just not working. You've had 4 people, 4 coaches, 3 coaches, whatever, run this damn defensive scheme. And now you got the mastermind that runs this defense, and it still looks real shitty. And you're taking players out of position. That's why I can't stand. If Bryce Huff is meant more for a more aggressive scheme, that's how you should use those players. Okay, but now you're taking those players that are meant for another scheme, and you're trying to take them out of position, which Bryce Huff is still learning because Fangio has forced him to learn. It's not even Bryce Huff's fault, to be honest with you. It's not his fault he got paid. It's not his, like, at the end of the day, you can't hate the player. You got to hate the coaches. You got to hate the GM for it. That you can't hate the player for it. The player goes out there. If someone offers you $17 million a year, you're going to take it. Whether you're good, you're bad, whatever the case may be. But you don't blame the player. You blame the coach. To put this team in that spot, and you blame the GM for why the hell do you throw money at this player while your whole defensive line is suffering. So if Bryce Huff is suffering and we put more on him because he's getting paid and he's the so-called replacement for Reddick, so I guess that makes a lot of sense. But Carter, nothing. Davis, nothing. I mean, Graham, nothing. Hunt's not playing. I mean, seriously. You literally have one guy from this draft playing. You have your first round pick, Quinyon Mitchell, is literally the only player from the draft that's actually on field right now. It's really sad. Really sad. And Cooper DeJean needs to be involved too. He's starting to, let's go, Grandpa. Let's start moving with the production here and getting these guys on the field because I'm getting a little pissed off a little bit. But other than that, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about the whole entire situation with Reddick. A trade happening this week or next week. Do you think the Eagles will trade back for him and maybe give the Jets a late round pick or something like that? And let me know what you guys think. Can the Eagles survive without A.J. Brown for another game? What do the Eagles have to do? Are you comfortable with Jaylen Herz going to this third game into New Orleans? It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting heavily. And Jahan Dotson needs to be like a focal point this week. Okay? I'm telling you right now, like, oh, Jahan Dotson still needs another. I don't want to hear that. I'm telling you right now, if I hear he needs another week or he needs more time, I'm going to be fucking pissed off beyond. And that's where I'm going to be. So, other than that, guys, that's pretty much it. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Remember this, I want to thank BetUS for sponsoring this video. Get a 150% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Use promo code YouTube150. Start betting because you're going to win some money this year. I know the Eagles are hopefully going to turn this around. We'll win some money. We'll do our thing. And that is it. I'm just rambling at this point. You guys have a fantastic day. Enjoy it. We'll be streaming tonight on Friday to talk more about the situation. You guys enjoy. I'll see you guys on the next one. Shakes what up, follow side. Peace out, guys. Peace.